Well, first of all, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us today. It's a really great way to start the year seeing all of you here. I'm just going to start with a few quick announcements and then we'll go on with the talk and the sit today. So you're joining us on our regular Sunday sit. That's every Sunday, 4:30 p.m. to 6 p.m. We're staying on Zoom for the time being. Mary, of course, is going to be leading today. We have our meditation as refuge on Tuesdays on Zoom. Joe Kai Blackwell will be leading this next one. That's going to be Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Wednesdays, we have our peer-led Just Sit. That is a silent meditation that meets on Zoom Wednesdays, 5:30 to 6:15. And Fridays, we have our loving kindness group, our meta group. Ian Chalice will be leading it. And that's 4:30 p.m. to 5:15 p.m. We also have a couple of other things going on. We're doing meditation for everyone, which is a beginner's meditation class. That's going to be Saturdays, the first Saturday of the month. Ian will be teaching this next one on the 7th. It's a suggested donation of $20 for this one. And that is, I believe that's at 10 a.m. Yep, 10 a.m. And it's a 45-minute class. And we have an opportunity to meet in person in community. Actually, it's full. For last I heard was our sangha reclaiming community, reclaiming connection. It's full. It's going to be February 17th to 20th. If there are dropouts or anything, we'll let you know. But because it filled out pretty quickly, we are planning to do another one a little later on to try to get everybody together in person in a residential setting to practice together. I'll also be posting a couple things in the chat for how to donate to the Sangha, how to donate your time, your energy, your skill, or financially, of course. And yeah, that's all I have for you. Mary.
Thank you, Adrian, and hi, everyone, and Happy New Year again. I don't know what the official cutoff for saying Happy New Year is, but I think January 1st, it's still safe. So it's good to be with you. I hope you had a good day. I don't know about in Palm Springs or the area out there, but it rained yesterday, and it was an absolutely gorgeous day today here in Los Angeles area. So it's a beautiful start to the year, and I'm glad I get to sit with you. I always find it's a beautiful way to start. So I don't think there's anybody here is there anybody here for the first time? No, okay. Not that we know of. So we'll do a sit for about 40 minutes, and then we'll have some Dharma, some questions, some conversation. The last week, I do a morning meditation. I'll talk more about this later, but I've been doing this invitation to just rest in being, just letting go of the stuff that's so often there, especially around this time of year. It can tend to be hectic. There can be a lot of to-do lists or things on our plate. Or not, but just to let go of stuff and just be. There's a simplicity to this practice, a spaciousness that's there. It's always there when we allow ourselves to just relax and be. And so those are the instructions I'm going to offer this afternoon as we sit. Not going to do a lot of guidance, just a little bit of guidance, because I think you've all been practicing for a little bit, and just moving into this place of resting in just being, not doing. So find your seat, take your posture, let yourself relax. Take a few moments to arrive. Let your body arrive. Let your mind arrive. Feel yourself supported by your seat, by a chair, a cushion, a sofa. You may be sitting or laying down, whatever it is, just see if you can relax the body. Let the earth, ultimately the earth is supporting you. So let yourself be supported. Taking a couple of breaths, intentional breaths to breathe in, and then just relax on the exhale. Breathing in again, Relaxing, letting go on the exhale. And as you relax the body, those places that may be tight, may hold your tension, allow the mind to also relax, releasing all the chores that may be hovering, the to-do list, the expectations. Just give your mind these moments to relax, to release. And as you come into this practice this afternoon with this body and mind that are relaxed, allow yourself to just rest in being right here. There is nowhere else to be. There's nothing to do, nowhere to go. Remembering also that there's a simplicity to this practice. Just letting yourself rest here, opening to the experience that's right now. Releasing all the shoulds or coulds or maybes. Just resting in being. The mind will undoubtedly drift away at some point. Recognize that this is part of the practice, and when you come into awareness that you've drifted, gently release the thought, opening back into this moment, this experience and rest again in just being here. All the sense doors are open during our practice. Let's see if you can just rest without reaching out and grasping on to the different sensations, the sounds or smells, the thoughts. Just let them be, letting sound be sound, let thought be thought. No need to grasp onto anything or push anything away. Allow yourself to just rest right here, open, aware, relaxed. The experience may be comfortable, it may be uncomfortable, it may be pleasant, it may be unpleasant. It may be none of those, just neutral. See if you can greet whatever experiences here, gentleness, a friendliness, just rest in being with what is, be with this moment. Doesn't have to be different from what it is. Relaxed in body and mind, resting in the spaciousness that opens up when you're not grasping or clinging or pushing anything away. Just resting with being this moment, open to whatever shows up. Right now, it's like this. resting and being open to each experience that comes and goes. It's a practice of equanimity, resting in the present with no preference, opening to what is, with kindness, with gentleness, no judgment, no critical voices, open, resting right here. Relaxed in body, relaxed in mind, open and gentle awareness to what's right here, right now. Letting yourself be present this moment. Just be with what's right here. We are moving now into the last few moments of our practice this afternoon. And I invite you, if you like, to move into a simple gratitude practice, reflecting on something in your life you're grateful for, and resting with that for a few moments. Thanks, everyone. Any questions or comments or thoughts about the instructions or about your experience? Okay. I hope you were all able to just rest in being for a few moments at least. Sati, which is often translated as mindfulness, also means to be with. So this practice of just being with the experience of the moment is really what the Buddha is also pointing to. Just be with, and that's kind of what I want to talk about this evening, this afternoon. I taught Thursday, which was my last class of the year. And so it's like, okay, what do you talk about for the final class of the year? And then what do you talk about for the first class of the year? Like it's a thing that, and so what I was reflecting on was, as I mentioned earlier, I do a morning meditation, 7 a.m., 7 days a week. And over the last weeks, not the last weeks, but over the last week, the last several days, I started moving into this invitation to a don't know mind, which is so helpful. It's this willingness to release our preconceived ideas of how things are supposed to be, even as simple as how this meditation is supposed to unfold. Or we get caught up in thinking, we get caught up in ideas, ruminations about the past or plans about the future. And there's so much agitation, or there can be agitation, a lot of chatter. And to be willing to just say, oh, don't know, really don't know, is such a relief. And I found myself somewhere during the week, I was doing something during the day, and my mind was like doing one of those this or that. Should I? Yes. Should I? No. I don't even remember what it was, but all of a sudden that phrase don't know came in, and it was like, oh, whew, I can just let this go. And so that's a fruit of practice. It's like, we sit and we do this stuff in meditation, but it's when it shows up in the rest of our life. That's when we've trained the mind to move in a particular way, and it supports us as we go throughout our day. That's where that continuity of mindfulness comes in. So this invitation to don't know mind is so helpful. And then one of the mornings when I was offering that as part of the instructions, that phrase "rest in being" came up, and this is something that I first heard many years ago when I went through a Year to Live practice. And it's Year to Live is a book written by Stephen Levine about spending a year as though it were your last year. And he does a lot of meditations in there. And one of them was rest in being. And really, it's just to be without, as I was trying to give in the instructions this evening, just be. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to solve any problems. You don't have to create a scenario so that the past is different, because I've spent a lot of time changing history so that it works out better or less painful. And it's just be present. What is it? Is there a sound? Is there a smell? Is there a taste? So that's what, as I said, sati, mindfulness, also means to be with. Just be with the experience that's right here. There's an ache in your back. There's a loud noise. I had last summer, my neighbor right out this window here was doing some work in his backyard. So during morning meditation, there was the sweet sound of jackhammers like 8 feet away from my laptop. And okay, can we be with this? It's to just rest in this being without this jumping up and this needing to do something about something, which is kind of how we operate a lot in this culture. I know I do. And a couple of years, or when I was going through the Year to Live practice, I was also doing archaeology at the time. And during my year, I went over to Syria, and I realized when I got there, I didn't want to be there. And it was really a challenging couple of months. I was there for a couple of months and it was so challenging. And I did this rest in being practice a lot every day and put it together with this other meditation called original face meditation, which is who are you before all the stories came up, all that conditioning, just releasing everything to just be present. And that's what the Buddha taught. Let go of everything. It's, you know, um, peace comes from letting go. I've mentioned this before, that Bhikkhu Analayo said in a retreat I sat with him last year, a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, that the sum of the Buddha's teachings can be summarized in 5 letters, LETGO. So when we do these different practices like resting in being, um, don't know, we are willing to let go of our best thinking, those ideas that we think are um, superb or precious, or our ideas of how things should be. So to just be, and I'm sure you've all experienced it, but we sometimes are not aware of it. And I was at a show on Wednesday night. It was with one of my favorite bands in the world, and I was really excited. And it was before the show started, and it was in this really one of those 1920s theaters in downtown LA, really gorgeous place. And we're all standing around waiting for the show to start. And I was just standing there, and all of a sudden I noticed that there was this real sense of contentment and joy, and I had this big smile on my face. I wasn't thinking about anything. I was just in the moment, in the experience of the moment, which was pleasant. And if I had been thinking about different things and boy, isn't parking expensive and blah 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 blah, and it sucks, you have to stand up for 4 hours and the opening act better be good and blah blah, instead I was just like, and I noticed that, oh, I am resting in being right here, right here. And it's so easy to get lost in thought, but I'm sure you've all had that experience of just being in the moment. And the Buddha talked about that around his enlightenment, remembering back when he was a young boy, watching his father and just being fully present in the moment without this attachment to the future or the past or some idea. Can you just be? And that was his movement towards enlightenment, was to be able to release all those things that he clutched, that he clung to. To cling is to suffer. This dukkha is often, the meaning of dukkha, which is usually translated as suffering, can also be thought of as being discontent with the way things are, meaning we have a preference for something different. So if we're constantly going, oh, this isn't right, this isn't right, this is, I want that, how come this is happening? There's a discontent. So if we can come back to, oh, this is the way it is. It may not be pleasant, but we're not fighting reality. We're just going, oh yeah, this is the way it is. There's an ease that can happen, and a release of clinging. Um, it's so easy to get caught up in thought. And I knew someone years ago who said, you know, she was talking about getting so caught up in thinking and planning and stuff. And she goes, it's all made up anyway. And it's like, yeah, everything we think about the future is all made up. It's just a story we've created. I mean, we may have plans. I'm planning to do something tomorrow, and I've got a lot of plans in my little calendar for this week, but I don't know what's going to happen. It's just a story that's probably going to happen, but you know, who knows? So this, how do we get to this place of being, of just resting in being? And there's a couple of things that I think are really important. And the first is willingness. Willingness. That's one of the paramis, this willingness to stay, this willingness to return when we have drifted away. Because sometimes we think it's just too vital to figure something out. It's I'm one of those people who has conversations with folks who are not present, usually trying to convince them about my point of view, or also telling them a story about how good I am, because I have this thing of I need to see, I want people to see me in a particular way, especially people I think are important. I want them to see me in a light, that I'm a nice person and blah blah blah. And so I'll have these conversations and I'll tell a story over and over and over in my head to a person. And then all of a sudden I'll realize that's what I'm doing. I'm having a conversation with someone who's not present. And then I'll say, oh, Mary, no, stop, come back, let go. And they'll go, no, no, this is really important. I need to do this now. And so it takes an effort, those habits of mind that are driven by this deep conditioning. For me, it was, in a particular instance that, telling somebody how good I did was an instance of wanting to be liked or seen in a certain way. And that's that deep, deep conditioning that I may not even be aware of until I stop and go, what is this? This bringing this inquiry, what is this? What's driving this? Oh, I want to change the future. I want to change the past. I want to do all those things. And to be willing to let go and to return to the present. What's right here? And to let go of our most precious ideas about how things should be. And work with what is. The world is not how I want it to be. There's a lot of things wrong in this world, but I can sit and whine, or I can work with what is. So that's the willingness to be fully engaged with reality, to be fully present. And then the other thing that's really important about resting in being is this idea of guarding the sense doors. Sense doors. That's the 5 senses we're normally used to: sight, smell, taste, touch, sound, smell. Did I get them all? You know what I mean. And then the 6th in Buddhism is thinking. There's 6 senses, because that's when we have a sensory input, it's so easy to just get lost in a story about it, or, oh, this means this. What does this mean? I hear a siren and I'll think it means a particular thing, or I'll hear some music and I'll immediately be transported somewhere else. Or a thought shows up that I immediately latch onto and create a scenario about. I'm tooling down the road and I'm happy as a clam, and then all of a sudden I see somebody standing on the corner that reminds me of somebody who pissed me off, and then all of a sudden I'm like angry. It's so these things can happen so quickly. And the Buddha talked about guarding the sense doors, when in a number of the suttas, but in one of the suttas, he says, Sariputta, one of the Buddha's attendants, is talking about how do you guard the sense doors? When you see something with your eyes, you don't get caught up in the features and the details. If the faculty of sight were left unrestrained, bad, unskillful qualities of desire and aversion would become overwhelming. For this reason, we practice restraint, protecting the faculty of sight. And then they repeated it with hearing and smelling and tasting and physical sensations, touch and thinking. And so we have to be willing to pay attention to what's happening, not just be driven willy-nilly by our senses. We have to be fully present. That's that being with and paying attention. And Thich Nhat Hanh, who I really appreciate a lot of his teachings, he took the precepts and he kind of reimagined them as mindfulness trainings, and he talks about the 5 mindfulness trainings. And the 5th precept is to not ingest any intoxicating substances which would lead to heedlessness, drugs, alcohol, so on. And Thich Nhat Hanh talked about in the 5th mindfulness training. He said, and this is what he wrote: aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I vow to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, my society, by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I am determined not to use alcohol or any other intoxicant, or to ingest foods or other items that contain toxins, such as certain TV programs, magazines, books, films, and conversations. I'm sure if he was writing this today, he would include social media. I am aware that to damage my body or my consciousness with these poisons is to betray my ancestors, my parents, my society, and future generations. I will work to transform violence, fear, anger, and confusion in myself and in society by practicing a diet for myself and for society. I understand that a proper diet is crucial for self-transformation and for the transformation of society. And by diet, he doesn't just mean what you eat and drink. He means everything we ingest. And it's so important. I love that he said TV and magazines and books and films and social media and the 24-hour news cycle. It's so easy to get sucked into this stuff and get lost, go down those rabbit holes. And really, we have to be wise about what we ingest, especially if we're just non-discerning in our consumption. We just hear these things and we believe them, and they lead to behaviors, and they lead to all types of things that perhaps we may not want to do, or they may not be skillful. So to really pay attention to what we ingest, it's so important, especially these days where we're just bombarded with so many things, you know. And it kind of goes along with what the Buddha talked about, you know. He said, in sound, let there just be sound. In smell and thought, let there just be smell or thought. Don't create these scenarios. So guarding the sense doors and watching what's coming in and not leaping off into big things. Just let a sound be a sound and be with the experience that's right here. That's the gist of resting in being, releasing the attachments, releasing the shoulds, the if onlys, the have tos, the what ifs, and be present for the experience of the moment. And I think it's really helpful, especially around this time of year, because we're in this traditional time of making resolutions, or not that a lot of folks make resolutions, but a lot of people do, of seeing what's not working and coming up with a plan to make it work, aspirations, intentions. You know, there's a lot of that going on. And I find what's important is to recognize that there may be an intention to move in a particular direction, but not necessarily needing to delineate every step of the way, because sometimes all we see are the step that's right in front of our face. And we take that step, and then the next step appears. And so to create this, 12-step process and then get to step 3 and it's not quite going the right way, but we're bound and determined to stick to this 12-point process. But step 3 says, maybe we go over here. To rest in being is to be present with the moment. What is? My intention is to be gentler. My intention is to be kinder. My intention is to, whatever the intention is. My intention, I do an intention setting every New Year's Eve. And in 2020, my intention was to be more comfortable with impermanence. And then we had the pandemic. So I had a lot of opportunity to become comfortable with impermanence because everything went upside down. And so that, that is like, gee, okay, how do I greet this? How do I greet it? I didn't say, no, this is not what I meant. It's like, no, this is what is. This is what's right here. That's what we get to work with. We get to work with what's right here. And so I love, I have a quote from Daniel Siegel, which I had forgotten about, but I really like. And he talks about intention, and that's one of the factors of the Eightfold Path. The second factor is wise intention, and it's I like to think of it as inclining the mind. And Daniel Siegel says that neuroscience has shown that intention primes the nervous system to be on the lookout for whatever will support what we intend. So it's like when you get a new car or something, and then all of a sudden you see it's like everybody else seems to be driving the same car, whereas 2 days ago you didn't notice it. It's because now it's in your sights. And so setting an intention or something is this um, setting a reference point for the mind to move in a particular direction, not necessarily a plan, but it's much more flexible. It's like, this is what I'd like to have in my life. This is what I would like to experience in my life. And I went to a Dharma talk this morning that my friend Sydney gave, and she was kind of talking about this, and she said it was really interesting. She was looking at all the mindfulness apps that are out there, and they've all seemed to have gotten into the business of creating a better you and 10 steps or 3 weeks or seven blah blahs to get to making yourself a better person. And she said, what if the practice is just working with what we have? And she was talking about in some Buddhist uh, stories, it says that the Buddha had 86,000 prior lives before he took birth as Siddhartha Gautama. He needed all those to work on his stuff, and also when they talk about in the paramis that his lifetimes was like multiple eons. He lived lifetimes over many eons, which seems just to go to say that this stuff takes a while and work with what we have. Maybe maybe my sarcasm, maybe my fear or my people pleasing, that's where my work is. Not to get over it and be something different, but to be present with what's right here, whatever our challenges in this moment. And I really like to look at that because then we're not judging ourselves. This deep conditioning that has us reacting in certain ways, these seeds of consciousness or habit energies, whatever you want to call them, this deep conditioning that sometimes is generational. It's in our DNA. It's almost ancestral. That's what our work is, to not get over it, but to be with the stuff that's maybe not so skillful. How do we rest in being with that? How do we turn towards the bits we don't like? Equanimity says we sit and become intimate with whatever is present without preference. Without preference, this is the way it is. No judgment. Oh, I don't like myself for being this way. It's like, this is the way I am. Can I be gentle with myself? And set an intention, move in the direction to not cause harm, using those teachings, the Buddhist core teachings as a place to land, to support moving away from behavior that's not skillful, that maybe causes, is challenging or unwise in some ways. So that's what I think is important about this practice, is to really release as much of the preconceived ideas, the shoulds and the coulds and the woulds, moving into this don't know mind. Say, what? Don't know. What is this? Resting where you are, open to everything that shows up. Just being right here and see what gets in the way. What are the challenges to let go of? And be willing to let go of them. I loved that Sydney this morning was saying, what if there's nothing wrong with you? There's nothing to fix. Just be with. Just that these old habits that we get to work with. That's a novel concept because we kind of grow up a lot of times with the idea that there's something wrong, there's something broken that needs to be fixed. But instead, just greet the experience that's here without judging or critical voices. So to move through this, it's important to identify what gets in the way. What is a challenge? What stories are challenging to let go of? What judgments do you have about yourself? What doubts are there? It's really a practice that takes some willingness, as I said, to stay the course and guarding the sense doors in just keeping that crap out about shoulds and coulds and woulds and you better this and that and greet your own experience with an intention to move towards a way of life that doesn't cause harm, that's kind to you and to others, but without judgment, saying this is it, this is what I got to work with. Maybe you're in life 47,628 of your 86,000 lives. And I had a really I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty good, so maybe I'm closer than I thought. So anyway, my friends, I'm those are my thoughts on just being where you are and the willingness to just let go and just rest in being, especially as we get caught up in this new year, new you, and it's like, no, there's no new me. It's the same me, So anyway, I'd love to have conversation, questions, thoughts. How does this land for you all? Well, thank you so much for being here on January 1st. Yeah, it's good to practice. It's always good to practice, but I really appreciate it around these holidays. It seems for me, I get a grounding, and I appreciate being with folks as well. And yeah, Adrian said next Saturday's Intro to Meditation. So tell your friends who might be interested. And it's also a refresher if you have questions. So it's a really nice group that get to have these conversations in. And that's it. I think Adrian had put the Donna and volunteering and all that being of service info in the chat. And thank you, my friends, for being here and remembering that we don't just practice for our benefit, but we practice for the benefit of all beings. So may all beings be happy, may all beings be healthy, may all beings be free. Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.